Yo, what's good, everyone? Alex Trataros here with another Knicks episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. And with me is always my buddy, my coach, my pal, the man with a plan, the one and only John Meleka. But before I ask John how he's doing, guys, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify just to help us out. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a comment. That also helps us out oh so greatly. Also, if you watch this on the YouTube channel, if you don't even know we had a YouTube channel, make sure to go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the homepage, make sure to hit that like button whenever you watch a video, and make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you know when a new episode comes out, because it's not only the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. We got the other podcast, Winning Picks Weekly, where John and video producer Greg go down the NFL slate. Now they're going to be doing some NBA betting as well. So make sure to go listen to them and get their takes. They've been doing a killer job. Definitely check into to them if you are a betting fan, as I am now growing into, apparently. And last but certainly not least, please make sure to follow us on all social media platforms, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Follow the Knicks, Jets, etc. account. Follow our accounts. When you watch the YouTube videos, you'll see our handles underneath. Make sure to go to those platforms and go follow us there. With that being done, John, my man, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? It's been a crazy 2 weeks of Knicks basketball. We go from the highs of a 3-game winning streak, fleecing the Atlanta Hawks. Then we come to the lows of losing to the Charlotte Hornets, and then a brutal loss that we were there for. You were there for 2 games in a row. You got one more game to go to this week. We were there together. KJE was in the building. Thanks to OmniFan and Knicks Fan TV. We were there watching the Knicks and the Minnesota Timberwolves game. It was a good game for most of it until that crushing way it ended. But dude, I lost a voice. You lost a voice. We were there together. We were in the building. How are you feeling, man? How are you doing?
What's up, man? Yeah, honestly, that's a great intro. You know, the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows. I mean, this has been an interesting 2 weeks. And I decided to, go to the homestand with the Knicks this week. And boy, it has not been very pleasant. Like, the scores make it look way different than the actual games went. Like, that blowout on the Mavericks feels like 8.5 weeks ago. That was literally 7 days from our recording. It feels like a month ago. That goes a whole different team, right? We're like hugging Frank as if he's like our little child that like, oh, it's so nice to see you play. RJ Barrett's now like in the MVP race at the time, right? Like with the little Julius Randle like kind of scuttlebutt with the fans. Like, things are so weird from there. And then we trade for Cam Reddish. We're like, oh my goodness, like, let's go. Like, we're about to blow this thing out of the water. And then we kill the Hawks, who are just down bad. Like, after a year where they were supposed to be, the Eastern Conference favorites, right? With the Nets and the Bucks and the Heat. And they look terrible. And we just killed them. Like, things are looking amazing. And then we hit our home stretch where we're supposed to have these ridiculously easy games. The Hornets with no LaMelo, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans with no Zion, and then the Clippers with nobody. Right? Like, I don't even like these should be the easiest 4 games going into the Cavs. Like, we should be rocking and rolling. However, as usual, we're here as Knicks fans. We get killed by the Hornets with no LaMelo because every time Miles Bridges plays the Knicks, he's put him on the list, Alex. We have to make an official list.
He's actually good, though.
I mean, we have to just make the official list of Knicks killers. He joins Terrence Ross.
He's better than Terrence Ross.
He joins Ricky Rubio as the players when they play the Knicks. It's over. He's gonna kill us, dude. And it's really tough that we lost that game because we looked so poor. So honestly, I want to start there with you, Alex. Like, tell me, because I of course we're gonna have so much to riff about the Timberwolves game. Shout out to OmniFan and Knicks Fan TV, CP, the franchise being very gracious. JD Sports Talk, and honestly, everybody that was there, like, that was so cool. Like, we were with a bunch of people, so we'll get into that for the Timberwolves stuff and the upcoming week we got going on here. But dude, the Hornets game, I brought 26 family members to that Hornets game. We had the free throw, we had the post-game picture. It was the great time. It looks like we lost. It was a close game, losing by 10, but what an embarrassment, man. And I bring up free throws because this is what my little cousin that I brought. This is the second Knicks game I brought him to. he's freaking out about free throws. And I agree with him. He's like, why do these people keep missing? He's like, literally, like, he doesn't understand why they keep missing shots at the free throw line. And I couldn't believe it either. Dude, 50%? Like, talk to me about this Hornets game, man. Let me hear the Tratacaster, man.
I don't know, dude. Maybe they need you as a free throw shooting coach. You posting videos out here on Twitter showing that you can just hit free throws with ease. And
dude,
hey,
I literally posted that out of frustration. Like, I wasn't even going to do that, but the fact that we hit 50% that night, and then I know on paper we did okay.
And you did it in Tim's. You did it in Tim's.
I'm so annoyed, man. I'm so annoyed that the Knicks can hit a free throw and how easy it is to hit a damn free throw.
In Tim's.
And a hoodie, jeans, doesn't matter, bro. Just hit a free throw, man. Come on, 50%.
My man had his fit on, and he was like, "Yo, let me show you how easy this thing is." All right, I don't even get paid millions to do this. I'm just a church coach for a church basketball league coach. Exactly. But I can do this.
Literally.
Yo, watching that game, it was just frustrating because the entire game, it just felt like they were sleepwalking, dude. They were just out there just going through the motions. Everyone was just lifeless. It was just the typical Knicks matinee game. And you think after last season, which we were killing matinee games last season, we were killing them. You thought this, like, it was just, you thought this was all over. You're like, oh, this team's serious. We're about, and that's how I felt coming into this year, man. I thought this team was just going to take, whether or not the record was going to be better. I didn't expect the record to be better, like maybe slightly. I mean, I guess I did, right? Actually, no. In relation, I expected it to be somewhat similar because 41 wins out of 72 win season, I was putting up 48. So somewhere in that same ballpark, not too far off. But my God, man, this season has just been, it's just been so inconsistent, which when you get to the Hornets, just, we're just back at square one. Okay. We're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, whether it's RJ just playing poorly, whether it's Julius just sleepwalking, Evan Fournier doesn't want to show up. Alec Burks is just struggling at point guard that game against the Hornets. And then it was just everybody, man. It was legitimately just everybody. You watch that game. There's not, who's the one person you could talk, I guess, about Mitch and how he had the shake and bake on Mason Plumlee. And you're like, whoa, Mitch has got a bag, I guess.
I mean, that was a fun play. But honestly, if I'm being honest with you, they were picking on Mitch. Mitch couldn't guard Bridges, and they kept screen rolling on him. And I don't want to say Taj did any better, but that kind of annoyed me. And it really seems like that was really the theme of these two games, right? Like on the Timberwolves, they were really picking on Mitch. Dude, he can't set screens. And when he's out there, if he's out there, they kind of switch and try to get him on, one of their versatile big men, whether it's Bridges or whether it's Towns in the second game. And for the second time this season, and I mentioned it to you yesterday, Tibbs got so frustrated at the other team player just absolutely wrecking us. I was at the Rubio game versus the Cavs, and he just put Grimes on him. And now Bridges. If you go back watch that game, Tibbs got so frustrated with our big men. He's like, you know what, Grimes, you go do it.
Yo, he loves Grimes.
No, dude, I was about to say, this is why I know for 100% fact Grimes is never going to be traded from this team. I'll never say never, but like for the foreseeable future, Grimes is here to stay.
He's not going.
Whenever the Knicks are in trouble, they put in Grimes. Yesterday, I felt like he played the whole game.
Yeah, it felt like that. I mean, especially the second quarter. He played the entire second quarter and then part of the first quarter as well. But just saying, like, sticking with the Hornets for a second, like, yeah, they were picking on Mitch, but I felt like when we watch like RJ or Randle, it was more so Randle who was on Bridges. There was no pressure on him. He was just giving him everything that he wanted. And if you're going to do that to a guy who's super athletic, like, what are we doing here, man? This is where it's just frustrating. And then let's move on to the Timberwolves game. All right, let's get there. And let's start off by saying, once again, it was a fun event, man. Like, we were up in the suite, we're on the Chase Bridge, 302, hang out with OmniFan. Pre-game access. We got to see the guys warm up. We were down there on the court. You're seeing Mitch work on his handles and work on a three-point shot with Kenny Payne. That is something I was not expecting to see. Mitch working on his three-point shot with Kenny Payne and doing some like dribble moves to get to the rack and then working on his dribbling. I mean, I guess everyone needs to, like, I get that everyone needs to have like some sort of handle, but there was like extensive work. I was not expecting to see that there.
Every game, every pregame, Alex, every single pregame. That's what he's doing. And in the offseason too. These videos are all about him shooting from far away. So this is what maybe he's trying to develop this game. Maybe he's honestly just not allowed to shoot these shots. You know what I mean?
And when you look at his mechanics, it's like I look at his mechanics and you see like it's his hand is just going to the side. It's not even like pointing forward. So I'm like, I see why I would not want him to shoot if I look at his mechanics. I'm like,
and his left hand is like all over the place. It's not like set up. Like sometimes his left hand's here, his left hand's there. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I get why. Don't ask him to shoot for a three. He has to work a little bit more on that before that happens. Encouraging to see some dribble moves because we did see it against Mason Plumlee. You're like, okay, I could see some of that coming a little bit.
He can get to the rim, dude.
Yeah, he can.
To the rim.
He can. You see IQ going out there. I want to say Cam Reddish. That shot, man. That's
Cam Reddish did not miss in the pregame.
He was butter. That was butter. Okay. I want to see it. Obviously, shooting with no one in front of you is different. And when he had someone in front of him down in Atlanta, he was taking a lot more mid-range. So
40% from three, though. He's a killer. He could be
a real
answer for this team. I'm
not saying he's not. I'm excited for Cam Reddish being on this team. I just don't like the expectation of like he's going to be the next Paul George. It's like,
oh my goodness, dude. No.
Let's reel that back.
we have a minute situation, dude. We have a minute situation because let's talk about Minnesota.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it because Obi had 9 minutes, IQ had 9 minutes, and that was everyone's number one complaint after, of course, the refs. We had the Randle free throw. Nobody's talking about, I mean, I guess people, when you say refs, they're talking about the foul outs for Taj and Mitch. And I mean, those were just tough, dude. They were in foul trouble all game. We're playing with no center. Jericho Sims couldn't get in there, putting Burks at the end. Like, where do you want to start with this game?
I guess where I could start with this game is once again, what happened in the Hornets game. The first half was just like that, where it was just them sleepwalking through most of it. You had RJ this was probably one of RJ's worst games I've seen where he had to force everything. And I think he really wanted to show up Anthony Edwards and show what he is as a third overall pick. And especially since Edwards had it on him last season with the comment saying, oh, well, we're going to let RJ take the last shot. We'll live and die by that. And I think he wanted to come out and say, hey, that I'm here. I'm a player too, but you can't be forcing so much in the paint, man. Like he would just drive. He'd hold on to the ball too long. He wasn't passing it. That really bothered me. You want to talk about everyone else sleepwalking? The only guy that showed up is the guy that I've been asking to trade, which is Evan Fournier. And I will acknowledge that he showed up the entire game. Like he was there for the entire game. I have nothing against
first.
End of the first. That's what I'm saying. The entire game, from quarter to from start to finish, he was there. And like as much as I can get on Evan Fournier, and I think I'm not gonna get into my whole spiel. There's other podcasts you can go listen to my spiel about Evan Fournier. All right, I have nothing against him. I don't think he fully fits here, but whatever. We're gonna make do with what Evan Fournier is. He played as soon as the whistle blew. He was good. You have Julius Randle, another guy who's sleepwalking for the first half. Third quarter, it takes to get aggravated. Who aggravated him? I can't remember his name right now. You probably know. But McDaniels, Jaden McDaniels.
Oh, yes.
McDaniels had to get under his skin for him to get activated, which is just I'm going to get into that with you for a little bit later. We're going to table that for a little bit later. And then you have Mitch. You talk about Taj getting foul trouble. It was just a mess. But that third quarter, though, was bombastic. Kemba Walker finally got activated in the fourth. It just is what it is, man. This team is just – I don't know why they just can't start when I watch this team from the get-go. Just get it going. That is really what it is. And this was a game they should have had. Like from start to finish, this is a game that they should have had. I don't know. What are your feelings?
So you had mostly a problem with the first half, it seems like.
Oh, yeah. First half, for sure. It was my issue. And then fourth quarter, like late game execution, it gets to that.
I guess.
Yeah. It's
the best way to put it. It's just execution. So where I kind of want to know, and I guess it's really going to shape where we go from here is it the players or is it the coaches? Because all I'm hearing, Alex, is this is all Tibbs' fault. It's all Thibodeau's fault. He's a dinosaur. He doesn't know how to do the rotations. Everybody I talk to is telling me the same thing. But
we heard it yesterday too after the game.
Too. Yeah, and I'm watching these games. I'm going to these games. I'm listening to Knicks media. Shout out to Macri. Shout out to CP and Knicks Fan TV. Everybody's complaining about the same thing, but I just don't agree. I just don't see it. The only two players that I kind of feel them on is Obi and IQ. Like I see that they have 9 minutes, and that doesn't make quite sense. I'm with you there. So there is some stuff I would change, right, in the rotation. But I'm asking you, like, what are you more frustrated with? Are you frustrated with the execution? Are you frustrated with the rotation? Or are you frustrated with the refs from both games? But like more Minnesota.
I'm frustrated with the players because at the end of the day, look, the coach can draw up everything that you want, okay?
But the rotation, but he's putting them in.
There's an issue with his rotation. There's an issue. My issue when it comes to rotations is I don't want it to be like Brad Stevens creative, because Brad Stevens did a little too much mixing and matching. I don't think that necessarily works. Then you're throwing everybody off. There has to be some set of, I like the consistency of like knowing who you're going to be with and what your role is in that rotation. What I don't agree with is when it gets to the third quarter. Granted, yesterday's third quarter was just fuego. It was great. I loved everything about it. Normally what happens is that we get to a third quarter where we get the starters who are just in there for too long and they're just not doing their job. And it's like, why are they playing 8 minutes of the third quarter? Bring them out. Bring some,
Who? Randle?
It could be Randle. It could be RJ. It could be Fournier. It could be whoever. Whoever doesn't have it.
I'm saying, who are you talking about yesterday specifically?
There's no one in the third quarter. Everyone was rocking in the third quarter.
Oh, okay.
Everyone's rocking. I'm just saying, like in general, like when it happens.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. In this game, you're watching the first quarter, which is actually really the issue. And you're like, all right, these guys don't have it. Why are they in here for 8 minutes and they just do not have it? We got to shake it up, wake them up. You got to put a jolt in some of these guys. So like, all right, guys, everyone get the hell out of here. We're putting in Obi, we're putting in IQ. You guys go run in there and go get some. Let's go see what you guys got. And then if that doesn't work, go back to them. Like, oh, do you get it? It's like, guys, I need you. Like, this is from a player standpoint, the coach can only draw up so much. The rotations only matter so much when it comes down to the players actually executing.
Yeah. So in the first quarter, I think we have an issue with point guard, right? So, to break it down, I think we have an issue with point guard. I think that when Mitch is on the court, we have an issue with screens on the offense and on the defense. Whether it's, he sets one of the worst screens in the league. Like, are there analytics for that to see how unsuccessful his screen and rolls are, especially compared to Taj Gibson? Like, can we do like a plus minus there? Because I love Taj's screens more than anything on the earth, and you can tell the difference. And I want to go to the rotation thing before I get more into the execution. If you put Obi in, they literally screen him and get him on the best player every single play. Every single play that he's in, the other team gets him on ball. He's fantastic on offense. I agree. I agree 100%. He's very fun to watch on offense. When he shoots a three, I never think it's going in unless it's from the corner. You know what I mean? And so I'm pleasantly surprised. It looks like good from his hand, but it's just like the arc is off. So he looks good from the baseline. He looks good on offense, high flying, but he gets picked on defense. And then on the opposite side with IQ, he literally cannot run the offense. We're asking him to run the offense and he cannot run the offense. So we're not putting him in a position to succeed. So I think those are my two issues with those two players. What I want to know, and for yesterday, for you talking about execution, like everybody kind of executed, at the end of the day, besides Alec Burks, maybe you want to throw in RJ. He's been playing kind of bad the last two games. But what is this Burks obsession, man? Like, you're looking at the guy who was all over Burks last year, right? Telling you that we can't win games if Burks isn't starting at the point guard. But I don't know what it is about the dynamic of the team this year. He just doesn't fit at point guard. He's just so out of place. Like, I don't know what it is about him. Why do we have to force him in at the end there? Why are we forcing him in over IQ? Honestly, we honestly are at this point. I understand he's a veteran compared to IQ. I understand that Grimes is there playing a different position. So he's not, that's not really the issue. And I understand that we want to trade Kemba. And so we're giving him mad minutes. So I'm privy to all those things. But dude, what's going on with Burks?
Dude, I don't understand the Burks like point guard. Like, and here's the thing when it gets to Burks, I get the theory of it. I actually legitimately get the theory of it because when we talk about, all right, you want to run the offense through RJ, you want to run it through Julius and have them as your primary guys that initiate, that play make, and they're going to be your scorers in a modern NBA where you're talking about positionless basketball. In theory, it makes work where you put a point guard, a guard who you can rely on off ball, who you don't need to do that much creation, makes a lot of sense. That's not Alec Burks, though. We're asking him to do a little too much. So, like, I get it in theory. Like, I wrote about it for KnicksFanTV.com. I wrote about how it makes a lot of sense, and it does, in theory, make a lot of sense. If you had, this is where my obsession with Lonzo Ball comes in. It's like, you see how Lonzo's shooting this season. He doesn't have to drive. You don't need a guard that always has to drive because if you ask Julius and RJ, it's enough driving into the paint. And then guess what also Lonzo does? He passes really well. He does everything that we're missing on this team, and you don't need him to drive. That was my whole thing for Lonzo. Go check out Hoops Habit, and like you could go see my whole analysis there and how it makes sense as well. But Burks, man, like I get it. I like Burks. He needs to go back to that bench role to really be successful again, to be that just off-ball creator at the three, because as of right now, it's not. But it's just frustrating, man. It's just frustrating because we're just putting him in a position not to succeed. And when you have matchups where you're facing a highly athletic Minnesota Timberwolves team, he can get exposed. Like Anthony Edwards is just out there entering passing lines like there's no tomorrow. He's walking up guys, and he's not even going full effort. Like he had a hot first half, but he really quieted down the second half. He really could have gone off if he really wanted to, by the way he was just attacking the lane and doing everything. So getting back to Burks, though, like he's a good, like we know what he is, man. Like he's a role player. And that's why like it's hard to get on Burks a lot because he's a role player and there's a ceiling to Burks. It's not someone like RJ who's forcing the issue where you can get upset with RJ, who's just like, all right, let me just dribble, like 8 feet out from the rim and the paint and the restricted area. And you're like, dude, there's 3 people around you. What are we doing here? Pass it out. It's not like Julius Randle, like when he brings up the ball and is doing that whole point forward shenanigans and he doesn't push the pace. He's taking his time to get up there. He goes to the right side, and then he's going to work his way all the way from the arc to try to back down somebody. And it's just mind-boggling where it's like we are asking way too much. Kemba actually had it going yesterday. I thought we should have had the ball in Kemba's hands a little bit more than what we had, especially in the first half, in my opinion.
I mean, he gets tired. Like he hits some buckets, and then he starts getting a little short. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. Like I think he's now a microwave. If he gets hot, you leave him in. Once he starts getting cold, it's over. Like don't force it anymore with him. Like with Fournier, you have to let him. You have to let him go. He's more consistent, right? Like if he's hot in the first, kind of slows down, starts getting it going again. Like you got to keep him in and keep feeding him. Same like Randle. Honestly, with RJ, it's a game by game basis. Is either RJ is going to have a great game or an awful game. He has had a tale of two halves a couple times this year. We've seen that, and that's growth, right? Like that he's able to still pick that up. But at the end of the day, we have to stop getting so up and down with RJ because a player like Anthony Edwards is just way better than him. Like, like when I'm watching the game yesterday and Anthony Edwards is just so clearly better than RJ Barrett. It's crazy. And they're both, relatively rookies, right? We call, obviously not first year, but we call them rookies.
Yeah. They're young. They're young. They're young. That's the term we use for these guys.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to make it. And you could just tell that he's not Anthony Edwards. So there's still a gap there. So I'm looking for RJ to improve.
And he has. The thing is that he has.
I don't think these past couple of games are an indictment on him.
No, it's not. It's the experience of watching a young player develop. He's in his 3rd year. People don't want to hear it. People are like, "Where's RJ's accountability?" Yeah, he had a bag 2 games. That's he sucked yesterday. All right, 9 turnovers sucks. Like he sucked yesterday. There's no way to point. Yeah, too much. He cost the game with those 2 late turnovers in the 4th. There's no way around it. But at the same, but
okay, fine. I digress.
And he got fouled by D'Angelo Russell, which you see the report comes out. You see the report comes out. You see that D'Lo fouled. RJ didn't get caught. And they didn't. And then Cat gets away with an offensive foul on Randle for the go-ahead buckets. But hey, once again, happens to the Knicks, right? Always to the Knicks, where we have to see.
I saw that D'Angelo Russell foul from the Chase Bridges, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you want?
It made no sense, man. But hey, that's the way the refs
were terrible. Even
horrendous.
On the RJ turnover, CP standing right next to us, he's like, that's off RJ right away. He's like, what do you guys talk? Like, he's like, it was off RJ. Like, and then the replay came, and they had to overchange the call. Like, the refs were something else yesterday.
The refs were really bad, and the thing is, like, they're not the reason for why the Knicks lost.
Of course.
It was a poorly officiated game overall.
It was free throws.
Calls were inconsistent. I was
missing free throws. That's
free throws and turnovers.
I'm not even joking.
Free throws and turnovers. But it's also coming back once again, and I want to get into this because we disagree on this.
Yes.
I look at Julius Randle, and people are saying, they want to protect Julius to a certain degree, and I get it. I don't hate Julius. I like Julius. What he did first season, we all wanted to trade him. Last season was a magical season. This season, it's been inconsistent. I understand he's taking that next step as trying to be a leader. You're relying on him. He is that guy. The Knicks will only go as far as Julius Randle will take us on a game-to-game basis. My thing with Julius Randle, because everyone's like saying Julius had a really good game, and numbers-wise, and the third quarter performance up until during the fourth, he had a really good game. Like, I'm not going to eliminate that, but I can't stand how we're doing this whole dance where it's like, all right, we're gonna do this whole thing. We're gonna sleepwalk for the first two quarters. Maybe he's engaged, maybe he's not. And then it's like, oh, third quarter, Jaden McDaniels wakes him up, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna play right now. I'm gonna show you how good I am. And it's like, dude, it took Jaden freaking McDaniels. Like, it really took you Jaden fucking McDaniels to get you like activated for tonight's game. Like, my thing is that. And I guess it may be like, I understand he is by de facto. We had Steve on here. He's de facto the number one option. He's not the number one option. I get that. Fine. But where is that intensity that we saw last season, man? Where is it? Like, every single game.
Dude, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists.
Great stat line.
4 blocks, 2 steals. Like, I mean, even the free throw, that is the bane of my existence. I mean, I can't stand how many free throws we've been missing. And the fact, and I had no confidence, if I'm being honest, that he was going to hit both those free throws. But he went 9 for 11. I'm supposed to be mad at Julius Randle for going 9 for 11 at free throw. You want to call him not clutch, whatever you want to do, but he went 9 for 11. Like, it's fine. I'm way more annoyed at RJ Barrett, the fact that he can't ever go more than 50% from the line. What's the issue, dude? But anyway, like, Julius Randle, you can't poo-poo an almost triple-double and also say we only go as far as he takes us, and then say at the same time, I need you to start earlier. Like, what is in it? I understand, we did a little worse in the first half, obviously in the first quarter though. And so you wish that he did more of what he did in the second half in the first quarter, but that's being making a little too simple. You know what I mean? Because if he goes off, then Fournier doesn't. You know what I mean? So it'll kind of even out that way. My only question to you is, like, what do you want him to do when he has no point guard? Like, Kemba Walker played yesterday. Alex Burks played yesterday.
I can't go with that. I can't. I honestly
do.
I can't go with that.
You keep giving him the ball. Like, if he hits one of those threes, this whole game is different. Like the 0 for 4 from 3, the 6 for 15 from field goal. I get that it's annoying, but those are fun. Like,
dude, it's one thing.
Threes, the game is different. We're asking him to be the superstar. We're asking him to carry the load. He misses one. Yeah, I agree. And so that's why we scrutinize when he misses a clutch free throw, right? We scrutinize when he goes 0 for 4 from 3. We scrutinize when we lose. But at the end of the day, we have to keep it real. He's doing so much without a point guard. Last year, we're talking about last year, and that's what we're comparing it to. That's why we have the perspective.
And that's why. But that's the thing.
We had D Rose.
But the thing is,
a real point guard. And then when as soon as his energy ran out, as soon as the gas ran out of the tank for D Rose, the Knicks fell apart because we still asked Randle to do the same thing, and it just didn't work out because we had no point guard to come behind him. That's the only thing I'm seeing here. That's the only thing I'm understanding. Think about RJ, dude. Think about RJ when D Rose was around, and then he had IQ. You know what I mean with him there, and so they were both chilling. The bench was absolutely murdering. Our bench stinks now because we don't have a backup point guard. We don't have D Rose made such a big difference on this team. It's crazy because he's some resemblance of a point guard, not because he's D Rose. Honestly, it's because he's some resemblance of a point guard. And without that, this is the end of Julius, right? Like,
but here's the thing:
this is the cap. If yesterday is not enough, bro, if yesterday is not enough with a couple tweaks here and there, then I'm sorry, but Julius Randle is not enough for this team. Like, he murdered yesterday.
He did. Look, I'm not taking away his stat line. I'm not taking away any of that whatsoever. I get all that. D Rose, when he came, we had a magnificent run, especially with the second unit when it's fully healthy. That second unit runs, it hums. It goes. It takes his team so far. But the fact that you're saying that, hey, he doesn't have a point guard. We had Elfrid Payton last season for this guy. Like, and he was doing fine, doing what he was doing.
He played like 8 minutes a game, bro.
15, but who's counting? 15, but who's counting? Yeah, anyway.
That diminished way towards the end there.
Yeah, 15 minutes. Who's counting more during the beginning of the season? He had 20 minutes, whatever. Yeah. But my point is that it's not the fact that I understand a point guard would help him out a lot. And that's why I said Kemba. Like, Kemba's there. Like, we saw – You know,
he's not playing defense though.
But it does that fact Kemba's still a threat. This is where Evan Fournier comes in. It's just like there's just so many issues with this team. It's not just Julius Randle. It's not only Julius Randle that's the issue. It's not Thibodeau that's only the issue. It's not Kemba Walker that's the issue. There's so many things. But when I come to Julius Randle, it's because what I saw last season is a guy who is willing to go all out every single game. I know there has to be some sort of pace because we need him for if there is even a playoffs. But the thing is, dude, there has to be some sort of calculation going on in this locker room right now, because when you look at this team and you see the schedule that you currently have, and then you look at the next, we have the second toughest schedule. We have the second hardest schedule in the NBA after this week. It's going to be a gauntlet, dude. And you have to take these games where it's like the Minnesota, like you have to come out gangbusters in these type of situations. All right. Not every race is the same. Not every schedule is the same for somebody. You got to look and be like, you can't think that you're just going to, all right, we're going to beat the fucking Golden State Warriors. You're not going to beat the Golden State Warriors. I'm sorry. Even if we're fucking fully healthy, we're not going to beat
the Timberwolves and the Hornets with no LaMelo.
That's what I'm saying. And like, we should. That's the thing. Yeah. We should. We were even. And that's why it's even funny. People are like, why is Mike Breen keep bringing up that LaMelo's not even playing? It's because the teams were even. We were evenly set up for each other. we were ready to go.
So the one side tangent is the number one gambling thing that I've learned is when a superstar is out for one team, the team always steps up and always wins and always covers. That's the one thing I always say it, and it's one thing, but that's a side that's not, specific to this game. It just happens to be what happened for the Hornets. But let me ask you a question now, and to get off this Randle debate. And hopefully you guys comment.
Last thing I want to say though, before
I have a question about it. I want to know what you guys think about, our Randle debate. Hit us up on YouTube or Twitter. And let us know who you agree with. But let me ask you this one thing about Randle. The Indiana Pacers are sitting here and they're floating out that Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox is the deal. And they're I don't know why they're floating that around. And they also have Miles Turner that's out. So Indiana is obviously ready to deal here. They're ready to sell, and they're floating out the Fox stuff. If you're the Knicks, that means it's Randle for Fox, and that's where the deal is coming in. I'm sure they're going to want other players like IQ and whatnot.
They need a forward. Look, Marvin Bagley hasn't worked out for them. You paid Rashawn Holmes. That's your center.
All right. You're Leon.
You need a forward.
You're Andy. You're Worldwide West. Are you? What are you doing? I understand how you feel about Randle, but I'm saying it's not him. It's because the team isn't equipped for him, and we should. It's easier for me to say I want to find a point guard, and that'll make Randle better rather than trade Randle to get a point guard. And now we're chilling with Fox and Obi. I'm not ready.
I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to do that either. And here's as much as I get on Randle, and this is why I want to say, as much as I get on Randle, I know what he is to this team. I like Randle. I just know there's something more in there because I saw him do it with less last season. And even on paper, and when I watch this team, I'm like, oh, we can actually do the same thing like last season to a certain degree. And especially when it's going against a Minnesota Timberwolves team, it's like, all right, and a Hornets team that's missing LaMelo, I'm like, okay, we can do this. That's my frustration because I know him and we see it. Dude, we visually see it every single time when it's a nationally televised game, when it's the Chicago Bulls, the Los Angeles Lakers, whoever, when it's the Brooklyn Nets, this dude's on a whole other level from the tip. Like, and he just doesn't do that. And it's like, I get that some players have like this, they'll have a rough start, but then they'll have a breakout third quarter and it all looks good. And it's like, all right, they had a really good game. Like they had a really good game and it's really good. It's not great because it's not start to finish, but they had a really, really good game. My thing with Randle is that it's not a first time. It's not a second time. It's the entire season, dude. It's the entire season. If it wasn't the entire season, I'd be like, okay, I can get by it. But it's not once. It's not even like he did, like even during last season, I remember, I have a good recollection where it's like, he came out from opening tip, gave it his all. And even when he would struggle, he'd keep trying to fight and figure it out. And I'm like, I can appreciate that, but it's not like that this season. That's all I got to say. But with the whole Fox and Randle thing, I can't do that. I honestly cannot do that. And here's my reason why. As much as we need a point guard, that means we will then need a forward, and Obi's not ready to be that forward right now. He just and as much as I love Obi and everyone asked for Obi, even we were part of that chant screaming for Obi. We love the dude. We want the dude to get more minutes. There's just some matchups that are just not good for Obi. Obi against Karl Anthony Towns sounds like a nightmare. All right. Yeah. If you think Mitch,
yeah. So you're right.
If you think
for like a second, but yeah.
If you think Mitch if you thought it was hard for Mitch and it was hard for Taj, what the hell do you think Obi's going to do out there?
Nothing's hard for Taj. Don't you dare speak Taj's name in vain.
Oh my God. I love Taj too, but
listen, bro, Taj Gibson and Quentin Grimes are everything I love about the New York Knicks. I'm sorry to say, like I hate to say it out loud, but because they have the cloth of what it means to be a Knick, man. It's gritty. It's tough defense, doing all the small things well. And it's like, even when Grimes is playing defense, he's doing all the minutia of playing a good defense, like how to get into your face and poke the ball loose without causing a foul, and how to cut off you from getting to where you want to be. It's just all that stuff. It's all that stuff that comes together. It really, all that makes me not care at all if Taj Gibson gets fouled out. You know what I mean? I'm going to blame that on the ref. If he misses a free throw, it's no problem. If Grimes can't hit a three, not an issue for me because of what they're putting up on defense. You know what I mean? And that kind of goes to Fournier a little bit. You know what I mean? If Fournier is hitting on offense, we kind of let him slide on defense. Like, so everybody has this one dimension, and we just don't accept it from Randle. We don't really accept it from RJ. And everyone else kind of gets a pass. You know what I mean? They're allowed to be one-sided. But the problem is where nobody's even holding to that. Last year, they were able to. Like, Burks would have a crazy offensive game. You know what I mean? Bullock would have a good defensive game, or vice versa. And they were able to, kind of flip-flop on
the thing is, like, what they are, right? It's when it comes to, like, Obi, when it comes to quickly, they're young, they're new. You see them working hard, they play tough. They also have that cloth of like what it means to be a Knick. You know what I mean? To have that New York City grit. Even though Obi's defense is not great, you have that
IQ. I'm worried about IQ and slightly worried about Obi before this trade deadline. I know you're saying they have that Knick stuff, but the minute situation is making me pause. It's making me pause.
I don't think it is. Honestly, it doesn't for me, because once again, if you're looking at what the situation is, and Obi had pretty bad couple last games. All right. Like, yes, genuinely, like, he should not be on the court.
And he's going to murder versus the Pelicans, which we're about to get into.
But I'm just saying, like, when you see him in those matchups and he's struggling, you can't leave him out there to fail like that. Like, we also got to win games too. You know what I mean? And when it comes to quickly, same thing. And quickly, like, we faced, I don't think people understand.
It's scaring me.
We faced,
scaring me, bro.
I don't think he's going anywhere, because I think Tibbs is very invested in him. I think he is, man. I really think he is. So. I look at last night and I see quickly was struggling, because what we need him to do a point guard. What we need him to do a point guard is tough for him, man. Like, you can't pick up your dribble against these guys who are super athletic. You see how they're hopping lanes. You see how they're trapping. You see how they're blitzing everybody. If you're a point guard, You have to figure out how to split the defense, keep your dribble alive, and figure it out. And that's why when we saw early in the game yesterday, and this is why I wanted the ball in Kemba's hands, the pick and roll, like we saw him to Mitch do it a couple of times. You're like, oh, there we go. That's what we need. And everyone's like, yo, Mitch is getting a lot of action. It's like, okay, but the pick and roll is working with him and Kemba right now. And that's what a guard does. Like he gets those type of looks. You know, and as much as like we can say Kemba might get tired and all those type of things, give it to Kemba. Like we don't have D Rose, and this is like the struggle without D Rose. And obviously you don't want to put too much pressure on Kemba coming back because he legit just came back yesterday. Big news before the game, which was hilarious. But for quickly and Obi getting back to my point, I'm not too worried about them. Yesterday was not their matchups. The Wolves, you know, they're a playing team right now. They're 7th in the Western Conference, but they are super athletic. I don't think anyone's really talking about how athletic that team is and how dynamic that team is, because you get D'Lo, who's very quick. Evan Fournier had a tough time guarding D'Lo. Like as much as good defense as Evan Fournier was trying to play yesterday, and kudos to him for playing some pretty good defense, D'Angelo Russell was able to scoot right by.
No,
Carl Anthony Towns,
Russell's nasty, though.
Carl Anthony Towns, he scuffed a layup, but he can run. He's strong. He's strong. You see, he can go contact. He can work the post. Anthony Edwards is just an athletic freak, dude. Like absolutely athletic freak.
He's a beast.
And then you just add Malik Beasley and all these guys.
For me, which made me feel a little humbled. Let me ask. Oh, last thing on this Timberwolves game. Do you recall the last piece of news on Karl Anthony Towns and Tibbs? Like, what's their relationship like? What's their chemistry like?
I don't know. I honestly like the last thing I remember is
I
that
don't know what's changed.
The last thing that was said when Tibbs got fired is that it made Cat was shocked, but he was talking about how the coach then, I forget the no-name coach who was coaching the Wolves then, but you know, he was saying like it feels like a family here. It feels like open
I think that was
and like all this type of stuff. Saunders, thank you. It was Saunders. Thank you.
He's not no name. Flip. I mean, Flip was Flip Saunders' son, right?
Yes, but
Flip. Yeah, because Flip Saunders just passed. Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
it's Saunders, but still, like his son wasn't really like a big no-name coach. You know what I mean? Like just someone who
it was a family thing. Yeah.
That's why he got a family name. Yeah. But you look at him, they're like, oh, it's a family feel, all this type of stuff, like a lot of feel-good vibes, not a lot of like substance vibes. And I'm like,
because they had the Jimmy Butler. Sounds like they had the Jimmy Butler cat.
Well, that was when Tibbs was there. That was when Tibbs was there, and that was a fault.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Tibbs was supporting Jimmy Butler.
But that's what I'm wondering. Because then I think after there was a little, I just wasn't sure if I was mistaken or not. I think they reconciled a little bit with Karl Anthony Towns and Tibbs, both ways in the media at least. So quick question, like if we can somehow deal Karl Anthony Towns for Randle, where someone like Minnesota, like, you know, in that kind of package, you know, just, you know, there is Kentucky stuff.
Oh yes.
Like we're all, like, what if they want IQ and a couple picks here and there? Like we're gonna have to get rid of a couple of pieces for that because he's younger.
I would do that for Cat. If you're telling me we're moving Randle to get Cat, I wouldn't want Cat as my full-time 5, personally, because I think his defense is.
He'd be a 4. Yeah.
He's a lackluster
behind him.
He does, and that's why if you have him and the way Mitch has been playing, even though he got killed yesterday, like that Twin Towers like that, someone that can extend and is athletic and tall, that's dynamic, man. That's dynamic. But yeah, I would put if you had to say Randle like IQ for Cat. That's we're talking about like a substantive like jump as talent wise, like substantive jump.
Now we're talking for the deadline, man. I like that. I'll even throw in a pick. I don't care. Because
there's picks. There's picks.
Tibbs doesn't play his rookies anyway. I don't see who cares. Everyone's so silly. Anyway,
he does, okay, I really hate that. I really hate that he doesn't play. Quentin Grimes is out here getting minutes, bro.
Yeah, I know, but like McBride has no chance to play.
Quickly was getting minutes last year, and so was Obi. Like Obi,
yeah, by force though. These are both force.
Obi by force. Quickly, no, I will not agree with that because he earned his spot in the preseason.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Quickly, Grimes, he will play if you earn it.
Grimes is forced. There's literally nobody else playing defense. He's the only man playing defense.
But he loves Grimes. Like, he loves Grimes. Right. He loves Grimes. Like, there's so many other guys he can legitimately go to in those situations, and he's like, I want that guy. Like even when he pulls 40, when he pulls 48 and he had Grimes playing 30 minutes against Detroit, it's like, yo, all right.
Fair.
I just don't.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's go into the next the 2 games that are going to be between us and the next time you hear from us. The last of our homestand. I'll be there. Pelicans, Knicks. And then we got the Clippers. And then we got the Clippers Knicks at a 1:00 matinee, dude. I am terrified of these 2 games. Like these are must-win games, Alex. I can't stress that. If we lose these 2 games, I expect
I'm packing
nobody versus the Cavs.
We might as well pack it up, bro. Yeah. Start doing draft lottery stuff.
Tough, really tough if we lose these 2 games. And the Pelicans have the kind of guys that ruin the Knicks, right? They got Valanciunas, right? To give us that pick and pop. They got Devontae Graham, who's questionable. So we'll see what happens there.
Brandon Ingram.
I mean, those are the 3. Like those are 3 they really have to worry about. And they're very, very potential Knick killers. Like Josh Hart might do a little something against the Knicks because he likes that. I'm excited to watch Jackson Hayes just because we talked about him a lot. In our
don't sleep on my guy Kyra Lewis either, man. He's showing some stuff, man. Don't sleep on my guy. Kyra Lewis is
fun to watch too. I end up always showing up to the Pelicans game, right? I was there last year for the Zion game too, so I do like the Pelicans. That was a fun. We went to overtime. Like we did it. That was a fun game.
They were better last year, but that's another story.
Yeah, of course, and we were too though. So I'm giving it a buck. So, I mean, I'm not gonna say what do you think is gonna happen because if you call for a loss, then I'm gonna kill you. So I won't even ask you for what do you think. It's a win. We better win these next 2 wins.
It's a win, so and you got to beat the Clip. Wins. 2 wins.
I know.
2 wins.
So the only thing I'll ask you on these 2 games before we, wrap up out of here. Who are you looking for on this team to step up for these next 2 games? And who do you think would maybe take a slight decline?
I'm looking for Julius and RJ to step up. I think you have to think after yesterday's loss for Julius, that's got to be sitting somewhere down low, man. Like that has to be sitting somewhere down low that you just want to come out and win.
Is a revenge game for him always. Don't forget.
And it is. And then RJ had a really good game against New Orleans too earlier this season. And I feel like that's another time for him to get back in there. So I look for them to bounce back against those 2. But also I look for, like as much as I get on him, I'm also looking for Evan Fournier to like show up too, man. I think Evan Fournier is starting to catch some fire underneath his ass and like really want to play. So
interesting, man. I mean, him and Kemba, I agree with you that they do look like they have, fire in their butt. However, I think all they're doing is jacking up their trade price. I'm really keeping.
Well, they have to. Well, they have to. I agree with that. It's really the Kemba situation is probably the most difficult thing for me to like really wrap my head around because if we don't have Kemba and we don't have D Rose back before Kemba goes, oh boy, like oh boy, like we are like.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Okay, let me ask you this then. Another addition. Do you think Cam Reddish is going to show up? Because we mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but dude, Cam Reddish came out yesterday in the pregame.
He's going to play
with sweatpants and a hoodie, and he did not miss.
I don't think he plays this game. Although this is the time he should be getting in the rotation because we could have 10 guys and he could be that 10th guy. But I don't think he plays. I think he's going to be held out for a little bit longer until he gets enough practice in. His ankle starts to feel good. I put my 10 cap on for this one. Be like, yeah, ankle. He was moving pretty good shooting side steps yesterday.
He's fine. And I think he's going to.
Although, can I just say
into Grimes minutes? Obviously, he's a better version of Grimes. Like honestly, if Grimes could be Cam Reddish, that'd be fantastic. At this point,
when I watch, because it's really different when you get to see these guys on TV and in person. Like when we talk about the 10 pounds on camera, giving like some extra weight, like that's a legit thing. But Cam Reddish, man, he is thin. Like I didn't realize how thin he is. Like he has a very wiry frame.
No,
Like
and on the opposite side of that, when you see IQ's legs are huge. He looks
they're
like such a
massive.
small guy. His
They're
legs
massive.
yeah,
They're like the size
tree
of our.
trunks.
They're like the size of our heads.
Yeah, they're tree trunks. So I actually that makes me really happy about his durability. Like he looks jacked.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I think Cam Reddish. I'll end on this note. I think Cam Reddish is going to be huge for this team, and I think that allows us to trade Fournier without really blinking an eye. To be honest with you, I don't think that we need to. I know it sounds crazy, but I think that with Burks there, if Burks is stays and we have Grimes in there, we have Cam Reddish, we can kind of finagle this 2 spot. And especially if IQ is still here, you know what I mean? Like it really gives us flexibility. If Cam Reddish is good, it really gives us flexibility in the offseason. It really gives us flexibility to trade Fournier and not need a shooting guard to come back. So it really opens things up.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about this Cam Reddish situation. And
me too.
Because we have less, what is it, 3 weeks now before the trade deadline? I mean,
February
we have
8th,
to start
February 10th, one of those 2 days.
He has to come soon. He has to start playing soon. So I'm excited to see it. I hope it's these 2 games, man.
For sure. And like I'm excited to see what Cam does.
At home makes a difference for somebody like Cam Reddish. He's not like a superstar. He's a role player. So role players, excel in the Garden.
I'm excited. He adds that length. He adds that versatility. He's 6'8", 7 foot wingspan. It's a good thing to have in your lineup, especially if he can start. Because look, man, he was getting 20 minutes this season. He wanted more minutes. You don't trade for this guy and just leave him on a bench. So something's got to happen. But I do want to say for like the trade deadline, people are thinking that there's going to be like a massive trade. I don't think there's going to be a massive trade. I think we're going to see another, once again, between the margins type of deal between this front office. I think they're really trying to stockpile their assets for the right player. And even when it comes down to De'Aaron Fox, like I like De'Aaron Fox. He's not a really good shooter. I don't know how much more driving you need on this team. Like it's just when guys actually do decide to drive, it's a lot of driving.
It's not about driving, Alex. And I read your article too. It's not about driving per se. And I think that's where some people tend to get lost in the analytics and say you can't just read the analytics. You have to watch the game, because it's not just the driving. It's if you can beat your one player and that causes the defense to collapse.
Oh, I get that.
Everything changes, right? Like LaMelo doesn't need to drive in. LaMelo just needs to break his first guy. And the thing is, we don't have that.
But here's the thing.
One single guy that causes a threat of a double team ever. It's crazy.
But here's the thing. Well, Julius does. Julius does.
When he does, he dishes out, and that's why he gets 9 assists.
Yes.
You know what I'm trying to say?
And RJ, and when RJ was on that role, he can do that too. My issue with saying more driving is not necessarily for the fact of anything like statistic, analytics based, or so forth like that. I get what it does. My thing is that we need another shooter, though. Like our inconsistency from behind the arc is really just.
I think that's Cam.
But just one player isn't good. Like we had one player in Reggie Bullock, but that's my whole point is like, even with Kemba Walker, he has a better shot than De'Aaron Fox. So you have him, you have Cam, who could be a lights out shooter. He's shooting 41%. And then you have, even if RJ and Randle are closest to what they did last season, it's much better than just having, like, it's even better right now with like Evan Fournier out there. That's like, if you add De'Aaron Fox, as much as I like him, like what needs to work for him is like you have shooters around him. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, how does that work then? Whoever's driving, that's my point. It's like, if we're going to have all these guys driving, who's the guys that are actually shooting? Like, not everyone's well-versed at being a shooter like that. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. And just to end this on with the trade deadline stuff, Miles Turner, we noted he's sitting out until after the trade deadline. So it looks like he's on the move. Who knows where he's going to go? We also have, which I think is pretty interesting, we got this James Harden situation brewing, your favorite rival Brooklyn Nets. And, the team that that he could potentially go to, Philadelphia 76ers, his boy Daryl Morey. And then they have Ben Simmons. The Nets will just be the COVID team, the non-vax team, right? They found a way to get that going. So hope, maybe that's a situation there. And the last thing is Jeremy Grant. He was rumored to come to the Knicks. All right, another guy. Meanwhile, he wants $156 million extension plus to be the number one guy on the squad.
I think it was 112. He said 112.
112. Oh, I think it makes it total
156.
Like yeah, like with his money now or something like that. I think that's what it totals. Something close to that. I read it today.
Wild.
I think that means Jeremy Grant's out. So
it would be 156 with it. Yeah, no, I give me a hard pass on Jeremy Grant. This is my whole thing, which like he signed a 3-year last year. He's in the middle of his second year. He's got one more year. So if he asked for 100, if he asked for 112, it'd be like 136 with the 20.
Oh, okay.
I think he wants, so it'd be like 136, but it's
36, 156. At that point, he's ruining the whole cap. He's 35%. Like, what are you talking about? So
keep me far away from that.
The Grant stuff is out. I think the Ben Simmons stuff, Harden stuff is interesting, but that's next year. I'll leave you with this last note. And really, actually, last note. Do you think Ben Simmons? Well, I'm going to ask you this a bunch of times, but do you think that at this point, January 19th, is Ben Simmons getting traded before the deadline?
No.
Yeah, I unless Harden finds a way to get his way out in 3 weeks.
The guy that they wanted was Damian Lillard.
Yeah, and he's out.
He's out. So that's not going to happen. You're not going to trade a guy for a guy who's
Harden on Philly would be crazy. Harden and Embiid, which looking like MVP, and then he's going to get injured in a couple months. So they're going to need someone like Harden, and if they get dumped Tobias somehow,
yeah. See, I don't know the current stat. We don't know the current status of Ben Simmons' vaccination. It still hasn't been updated for quite some time. To like my last check, but if he is not vaccinated,
we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. But
if he isn't, I don't see why Brooklyn would want to have 2 part-time players.
Well, if you could do one, you could do 2. Why not?
I mean, I'd love it. Take 2 part-time players.
It's interesting. It's an interesting
playoffs come around and you got nobody with your home games.
That's hilarious. All right,
it's so stupid.
They're asking up there. I'm still hoping that Noel finds his way off this team. I'm done with the bionic Michelin man backup center. I'm really good on him. So we'll see what happens.
So sad.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad we paid him.
It was a good thing that we paid him. Like I know people are like it was a bad signing. Like
no, I'm happy.
It was not. It was not a bad sign. Like
the NBA owes the guy money. So it's
actually is really owed money.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's a good place to end it. So thank you everyone for tuning in for another Knicks episode of the Knicks Jets Etc. podcast. As I said at the beginning of this pod, please make sure to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to us. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to leave us a comment because it helps so greatly. But if you don't listen to us there, we're on Google Play, Amazon Alexa, Stitcher, you name it, we are there. Also, we're on YouTube, as I also stated earlier. So please make sure to go to the channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you know when a new episode drops. And whenever you watch a video, just hit that like button. That also helps us out so greatly. And while you're there, we got Winning Picks Weekly. Make sure to go check out John, video producer Greg. They're giving you their takes on the NFL slate. They got NFL playoffs right now. They're going through that. Also, we got NBA betting coming soon. So make sure to be tapping in and getting their takes on that as well. And guys, as always, follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. We are there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for another Knicks episode. We'll catch you later. We out.
Let's go Knicks, baby. I can't go 0-3 on this homestand. And the Knicks better not go 0-3 or 0-4. They better go 2-2. Let's go.